Savage Patriots, man, oh man, oh man. It
Man
took long enough for the
alive.
Durham Report to drop, and boy, oh boy, did he have some bombshells in this report. And so far, ain't nobody can't say nothing because it's all true. So we got the clips of some interactions, enough to get us going. And we may end up showing a little bit more on the Rumble event. But for now, we'll give you a good teaser as to what's happening on the hearing. So we'll be right back. All right, all right, all right. Welcome, guys.
All kinds.
Um, Mr. Durham.
Wait.
Mr. Durham has come forward with his report finally that we knew was going to yield what it yielded. Everybody knew it. Um, and but it's good to get concrete, unequivocal answers where people can't refute it on the board. So we are going to dissect it a little bit and see where it leads us, shall we? What's our first clip, sir?
All right. So this one is Adam Schiff accuses John Durham of violating department policies. It's about
Fun.
it's short. It's about a minute 50. All right. Here, Adam Schiff, talking of all people.
Pencil
All
name.
right, let me know when you're ready. You ready?
Go ahead. Yeah.
Shift, man.
Okay.
Hate shift.
DOJ policy provides that you don't speak about a pending investigation, and yet you did, didn't you?
I'm not exactly sure what you're
When
referring
the
to.
Inspector General issued a report saying that the investigation was properly predicated, you spoke out in violation of Department of Justice policy to criticize the Inspector General's conclusions, didn't you?
I issued a public statement. I didn't do it anonymously. I didn't do it through third persons. There were,
But nonetheless, you violated department policy by issuing a statement while your investigation was ongoing, didn't you?
I don't know that. If I did, then I did, but I was not aware that I was violating some policy.
And you also sought to get the Inspector General to change his conclusion, did you not? When he was concluding that the investigation was properly predicated, did you privately seek to intervene to change that conclusion?
This is outside the scope of the report, but if you want to go there, we asked the Inspector General to take a look at the intelligence that's included in the classified appendix that you looked at, and said that that ought to affect portions of his report.
And you thought it was appropriate for you to intervene with an independent investigation by the Inspector General because he was reaching a conclusion you disagreed with. You thought that was appropriate.
That's not, the premise isn't right. The Inspector General circulated a draft memo to a number of agencies and persons. Our group was one of them. We were asked to review that draft and bring to his attention any concerns that we had or disagreements.
And when he refused to change his report, you violated
Mr. Chairman, I
policy.
insist on regular order.
Well, it's not even his time. It's Ms. Lofgren's time. So the gentleman yields back to Ms. Lofgren, who's not here. So the time has expired.
All right. I like how Schiff is bringing up policy violation when that all they did during the first 4 years.
Oh, yeah.
Every time you heard a story without corroboration, that was violating the same policy he's talking to Durham about, because he was influencing someone other decision by putting it into the media and having it leaked. Every time, literally every time they had a leak about some sort of document, some sort of interaction that Trump had, it was all part of this so-called investigation. The Mueller. You remember the Mueller guy? That Mueller investigation? Every time you heard of a leak, every time you heard of some information about what Mueller was finding, that was actually what you would call violation. Talking about the case, no. But talking about details that no one else knows and then putting it out into the media, that would be the violation, Mr. Schiff.
Just look at Schiff's face. You ever see, you ever seen somebody that's just a freaking weasel? That's the Schiff face. The dude doesn't blink. You can look at him and tell he's full of crap. You ever just look at somebody and know they're full of crap? That's Schiff. He's reaching because he knew at that moment right there that he was in hot water already.
I got it. I got it. We'll make a t-shirt that says Stay sober. Don't be shift-faced.
You
That's
gotta
good.
make-
But
You got to make his
this is-
eyes like fish eyes, both on the
this
outside.
this isn't the only thing though. Like Adam Schiff routinely and repeatedly leaked documents to the New York Times and the Washington Post and all the other media outlets. Every time he got classified documents on the Mueller probe, he would leak it to somebody. Like the guy has no idea what secret clearance means, right? He doesn't even know what his top secret clearance means. He's just like, well, if it's beneficial to me, here you go. I don't care if I'm breaking the law, right?
And
so go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. Were you done?
No, I was
right,
going to
all right,
continue, but
so-
you go. I'm going to bring a clip up for this.
Oh, but you remember the Mueller investigation, right? And remember they kept talking about this secret whistleblower or whatever, this anonymous person that they couldn't talk about. And Schiff was adamant on not telling anybody who the whistleblower was. You want to know why? Because like Coy said, it was Schiff. He wasn't going to put himself out there.
Do you remember when they were actively censoring anybody that tried to name the whistleblower? And they would remove videos from YouTube in collusion with the U.S. government and Democrats? Yeah, no, I remember that.
Yes.
I remember. But the funniest thing is, like, as all this thing is happening, especially with like the submarine and the Durham report dropping, you also have Adam Schiff on the House floor getting censured, right, for this exact same thing that we're talking about. And have you seen how the Democrats protected him? Have you
They
seen
always
it?
do. They always do. But is this it here?
Yeah, this is the clip here.
109 with 6 answering present. The resolution adopted. Without objection, the motion to consider is laid on the table. House will be in order. I'll wait.
You hear that in the background?
It's all theater.
If you can't hear it, they're yelling shame, shame.
Isn't that from
Like it's Game of Thrones over here, you know?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And they all gathered, and he's like,
They might as well be saying, and bring out your dead. Bring out
"Oh yeah,
your
it gets better. It gets better."
They're used to chanting things like this. Get the
Yep.
cross.
Let us burn the effigy.
The House.
But they want to talk about decorum.
Yes.
Yep. Remember when those Democrats in Tennessee got in trouble?
Yeah.
And they're like, they were breaking decorum, but you're just trying to kick them out because they're black. Same thing,
House will be
you know,
in
same
order.
thing.
And look who's leading the charge right there in the middle.
Troopy
Yep.
toopy.
Yep. Old Crypt Keeper herself.
I do like how McCarthy's just like, I'll wait until you're done.
The House will be in order.
Bunch of children.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, those are Democrats. There's a hole in the bucket.
And Reese says, "Where is the dragon to burn them all like in Game of Thrones?"
But I just don't understand what you yelling shame is going to do. It's already it's done. It's a done deal.
Right?
You know what I mean?
Because the Democrats aren't like the Democrats
House will
aren't
be
in
in order.
charge.
Sucks to be them. It sucks to suck.
It just goes to show you how they act every single time, and that's why it's important for people to see how they act. And I'm thankful we have C-SPAN for that, so they can see. I'm gonna speed it up because it gets good towards the end of it when he actually gets to speak again. But it's like 3 minutes of this.
He needs
of them
a
just-
metal gavel on some galvanized.
Abstentions, Adam Schiff.
He just keeps his cool.
Yep.
What'd they say?
I don't. I barely heard it. It was just
Something
funny.
with power.
Yeah, it's abuse of power. Just like the 2 impeachments, right?
Democrats. They want to talk about abuse
Can I
of
see
power.
now on this nonsense? Because that's how boring they are.
Yep. I wish I had it. It's like I was trying to find that spot exactly where he says, "I can do this all night."
Yeah, he said
have
that
all
in the
night.
beginning. No, he said it right there. I got all night.
Yep. That's
By its adoption of House Resolution 521, the House is resolved. that the House of Representatives censures Adam Schiff, representative of the 30th Congressional District of California, for misleading the American public,
Yeah, they are supposed to be adults.
and for conduct unbecoming of an elected member of the House of Representatives. That Representative Adam Schiff will be forthwith present himself in the well of the House of Representatives for the pronouncement of censure. That Representative Adam Schiff will be censured with the public reading of this resolution by the Speaker. And that the Committee on Ethics shall conduct an investigation into Representative Adam Schiff's falsehoods, misrepresentations, and abuse of sensitive information.
Bam.
Yep.
Get on.
So, like I said, this. And then they're applauding him like he just won a freaking prize. You know what I mean?
Well, the thing is, the people that vote for them, they are a reflection of who they vote for.
Yep.
You know what I mean? The same way these elected officials, they're supposed to be professionals. They're ambassadors for the people of their state. They're ambassadors for the country. They just act like a bunch of third world rookies in there. And so you can see how these Democrats act. Go look at the average citizen and look how they act. They are a reflection of the people they elected. Just watch them all.
You got the
That's representative democracy, isn't it?
Yes, I sure do.
If all the people that represent are dumb, then I guess you're going to be dumb.
This one is Matt Gaetz.
Yeah, let's do that one.
All right.
Okay.
All righty.
All righty then.
It's up. Is it up?
It's up. Just put it widescreen. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I know, I'm just giving you
I was
opportunity.
gonna, I didn't get there.
What the hell?
The gentleman from Florida is recognized.
Yeah, I agree with Mr. Biggs. You've given us testimony today that you're disappointed that the FBI didn't cooperate more, right? That was your testimony.
Said that.
Yeah, so we're disappointed too, but the difference is when regular folks do things that are wrong and unlawful, there's typically greater effort to try to get those people before a grand jury to utilize criminal process where appropriate, not for other purposes. And it's just like, oh, well, Bill Priestep, the guy who might have set this whole op in motion, he just didn't want to talk to you about certain things, and you were real accommodating to that. And then Mifsud, the person who juices Papadopoulos to create this predicate that you find improper. You guys, I mean, did you ever know who his lawyer was, Mifsud's lawyer?
Talked to his lawyer in Europe. I don't know if
So wait, you could find the guy's lawyer, but you couldn't find him?
We contacted somebody that we knew had represented him, and a part of the effort to try to locate him.
And you got the lawyer. And then now you're sitting here in front of the judiciary saying you could find the guy's lawyer, but you couldn't effectuate the service of a subpoena because you couldn't find him.
Well,
Do you know
first
how
of all,
silly that sounds?
as you may or may not know, we wouldn't have the authority to serve a subpoena overseas. The lawyer didn't know where Mifsud was. He was in communication with him, but he claimed not to know where he was. And we were trying to arrange an opportunity to talk to Mifsud.
Did you take possession of 2 BlackBerry phones from Mifsud in any way?
There were phones that were provided to us by
So you could find the
Mifsud's
phones
lawyer.
with the guy.
Correct?
Do you see how silly this looks? Like you found the lawyer, you found the phones, but the actual dude who got ordered by Western intelligence to go start this thing you couldn't find? It's kind of laughable. It seems like more than disappointment. It seems like you weren't really trying to expose the true core of the corruption, that you were trying to go at it another way.
Yeah. As we said in the report, and as I said in my opening remarks, we pursued the facts as best we could.
Well, how about
and the
this
tools
fact?
that we have?
Okay, how about this fact, Mr. Durham? The entire Mueller team does a hard reset on their Apple phone in synchronization to wipe away evidence. Did you investigate that?
I've read that.
Well, why did you investigate it? Who gave the order on the Mueller team to wipe the phones?
Yeah, that was not something that we were asked to look at, and we didn't.
No,
look at
that's
that.
not true, Mr. Durham. That is not true because I'm holding the document that authorizes your activity, and it specifically says the investigation of Special Counsel Robert Mueller. It's in Mr. Chairman, I seek unanimous consent to enter into the record the order that says that you're supposed to investigate these things. And so, like, whether it's the Mueller team, Mifsud, how about Azra Turk? Azra Turk, what's Azra Turk's real name? Do you know that?
I'm not going to be disclosing the names of FBI personnel that are
Oh,
otherwise unavailable.
but an FBI, so the FBI sends somebody to go honeypot George Papadopoulos. Who gave the order to do that?
I think that's beyond the scope of what's in the report.
It's literally the scope of what your charging order is. Who put it in motion? We get after it was put in motion, the FBI did a bunch of wrong and corrupt things. Totally understand. We're trying to deal with that. But when you are part of the cover-up, Mr. Durham, then it makes our job harder.
Yeah, well, if that's your thought, I mean, there's no way of dissuading you from that. I can tell you that it's offensive and that the people who worked on this investigation have spent their lives trying to protect the people in this country and pursue within the law
You went
what it is that we
0 for 2,
are
Mr. Durham.
authorized
Wait,
to
hold on.
do.
You tried 2 cases, lost both of them, and then the one guilty plea you got, Kleinsmith is back to practicing law in Washington, D.C. today.
That's beyond my control.
Right, but the fact that you allowed that plea to occur, right, and then the punishment was insufficient. The fact that you didn't charge Andrew McCabe, you didn't convict the lying Democrats or the lying Russians, you didn't investigate Mifsud or the Mueller probe, even though, as we sit here today in black letter, that was your charge. Have you ever heard of the Washington Generals?
The Washington Generals, yes.
Yeah, and they're the team that basically gets paid to show up and lose, right?
Well, I'm sure that the players who exert blood, sweat, and tears don't view it that way, but you might.
I think they do. I think they do because the job of Washington Generals is to show up every night and to play the Harlem Globetrotters. And their job
I'm
is
thinking,
to
I'm
lose.
sorry, I was thinking of a different thing.
Yeah. So their job is to lose. And I'm kind of wondering, and it just seems so facially obvious that it's not what's in your report that's telling. It's the omission. It's the lack of work you did. And for the people like the chairman who put trust in you, I think you let them down. I think you let the country down. And you are one of the barriers to the true accountability that we need.
Do I get to respond to that or comment on that? Yeah. Well, I don't know if you've ever investigated a crime. If
I don't know that you have.
investigated a
You didn't investigate these, Mr. Durham.
whether or
How about
not,
Andy McCabe? Did you charge him? Did you investigate him?
Gentlemen, time has expired. The witness can respond, and then we'll move on to our last.
I don't know, sir, whether or not you've ever had occasion to try to investigate crimes under the rules and regulations and under the Constitution that we're bound by. We can gather evidence in particularly lawful ways. Can't charge people because we might think
It's not just
something.
that
We
you
can
didn't charge, you didn't
people.
investigate.
Gentlemen's
You didn't
time.
investigate the Mueller team
Gentlemen's
wiping their
time.
phones, and you
Gentlemen's
won't tell
time.
us who gave the orders because you're protecting those people.
Gentleman's time has expired. The gentlelady from Wyoming is recognized.
He brought the heat, man.
Whew.
Marlon's muted.
My bad. What exactly is up with Gates on that one?
He was upset that they didn't investigate the people that he mentioned. That was the big issue. Is that Andrew McCabe, like people actively responsible for Crossfire Hurricane, weren't investigated and weren't brought up on charges when they clearly violated the law. And that's what he's arguing, is that he protected them by not investigating and not charging them.
Do you
Which
think by the
doesn't surprise me.
Do you think by the information he got about Crossfire Hurricane, any and all involved parties can be tried?
No, because just because something's unethical doesn't mean it's illegal, and that's the thing that a lot of
No.
these people
I mean,
did
if
is
they
have-
find that Crossfire Hurricane was an illegal thing, can they bring anyone involved in it up on charges?
Depends. I mean, it's accessory maybe, but that's just too much of a hoop to jump through. They have to have concrete evidence of X person did X thing. If they don't, then they can't. And it's also one of those things, it's like, just because you shouldn't do it and it's unethical doesn't make it illegal. It has to cross the threshold of illegality, right?
So do you think
and so that's
he,
the problem with these investigations.
Do you think he intentionally left that out?
Could be. I mean, I can't speak to Durham and what he thinks and what he he wanted to do with that. I think he could have gone harder on these people, but he also didn't want to look like he was
Partisan.
politically motivated either. So like, it's one of those things. It's hard. It's like, once the Democrats have already done this and we know it's politically motivated, now you're investigating a thing that's obviously politically motivated. How do you keep yourself from looking like politically motivated? That's a problem with him.
Well,
That actually brings up a clip I have about them saying he had a good reputation. Go ahead, Mike.
All right, go ahead and-
Yeah, so I mean, we all know it was politically motivated from day one.
Yep.
So regardless of how he tries to save face in his name, it's going to come back to it being politically motivated.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it doesn't matter what he says, doesn't matter what they do, doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You know, his reputation, even though he says his reputation isn't screwed, his reputation is done.
Yep.
Then after that, I have
And that-
Jim Jordan.
Okay.
Yields back. The gentleman from Tennessee is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Durham, you were appointed by whom?
So I was,
Who recommended you and appointed you?
as the special counsel,
No, as the U.S. Attorney.
as U.S. Attorney, it was President Trump at the time, with 2 Democratic senators from Connecticut supporting the nomination.
Mr. Trump appointed you. You believe Mr. Trump has pretty good judgment on people, their abilities, and their character?
I'm not going to characterize Mr. Trump or my thoughts about Mr.
You
Trump.
see where he's going with that questioning?
Mr. Barr appointed you special counsel, is that correct?
That's correct.
Mr. Trump has called Mr. Barr a gutless pig, a coward, and a rhino. Which of
Facts.
those is correct? Which isn't?
Sounds like Trump.
In my experience, none of those are correct.
So Mr. Trump isn't that good of an expert on character and judging people. In your
Yes.
opinion, he isn't, because he's none of those. He's not a gutless pig. But Trump says he is.
Yeah. That's outside the scope of my report.
Also outside the scope of your report, apparently. Also outside of the scope of your report was apparently the meeting at Trump Tower between the Russians and the Trump boys, where they talked about allegedly adoptions, but we know it was really about sanctions.
Do they
How
know
is that
that?
outside of your report?
No, they don't.
No.
It's all hearsay.
I'm sorry, I didn't quite follow
Meeting
that.
at the Trump Tower, attorney, Russian attorney came to the Trump, and Donald Trump Jr. was just wonderful, wonderful. We love it. We love it. Russian decisions to interact with the Trump campaign and influence the actions of the campaign, allegedly for adoption law, but really for sanctions relief. The FBI came up with that, did they not?
A meeting took place at Trump Towers on June 9th. The lure, as I understand it, was that there was information, derogatory information on Clinton that was going to be provided. They met, and as I believe in a HIPSI report, the HIPSI report fully laid that out, that the discussion then at Trump Towers was about adoption, not about anything relating to Mrs. Clinton.
It was totally about sanctions. You're trying to get rid of the Magnitsky Law. Adoptions is a ruse. Should you not have gone and looked into that and seen what the Russians were wanting in return for that? 'Cause
That
that's
your
the biggest
opinion?
thing Putin wanted at the time, was to get Trump to relieve his people of Magnitsky sanctions.
I think that Director Mueller investigated that, and I believe one of your House committees explored that. That was outside the scope of what we were looking at.
And it was outside the scope of your authority to look at Klimnik and Manafort meeting and exchanging polling data.
Was that out? I'm sorry, I'm not following your question.
Manafort, you remember Manafort, the crook that managed the campaign for nothing, but got tons of money from different Russian people over the years that y'all pardoned? Mr. Barr later helped him with the commutation or a pardon, I think a pardon. Manafort.
I know who Ms. Manafort is.
Yeah, he met with Klimnik, and they discussed polling data. You don't know about that?
No, that Mr. Klimnik met with a lot of people, including people.
He
from the
met with
State Department.
Manafort and discussed polling data. Do you not know about that?
I'm aware of that.
All right, why did you then
Why is he
not
yelling?
think it was a good idea for you to look into it and see if the FBI
Democrat.
wasn't correct in that there was collusion, a connection between Russia and the Trump campaign to elect Trump?
Every time he yells, his hairline
My
goes
assignment
further
was
back.
to look at the conduct of the intelligence
These are
community
the koala.
agencies.
They're aggressive.
Not to conduct some separate investigation that was done by the House or that's done by the Senate or was done by Director Mueller.
Yep.
You don't think that if the intelligence communities, the FBI, others came up with this information and did good work, that should be part of your balanced report?
I'm not following your question. I apologize.
Well,
it's
I've
a
tried
question.
to follow your report. Mr. Donald Trump Jr. would have called it a nothing burger. You got no convictions. You got nothing. It was all set up to hurt the Mueller report, which was correct and was redacted, to hurt
Because it sided with you.
the
Right.
Bidens, and to help Trump. And you were a part of it. You have a good reputation. You had a good reputation. That's why the two Democrats supported you. But the longer you hold on to Mr. Barr and this report that Mr. Barr gave you as special counsel, your reputation will be damaged. As everybody's reputation who gets involved with Donald Trump is damaged, he's damaged goods. There's no good dealing with him because you will end up on the bottom of a pyre. I yield back the balance of my time.
Sure.
Can we presume the gentleman's undecided on how he feels about the former president?
Gentlemen, witness can respond.
Yeah, my concern about my reputation is with the people who I respect and my family and my Lord. And I'm perfectly comfortable with my reputation with them, sir.
Well said. God bless you.
You know, that little jab to the people I respect.
Yep.
Okay, so let's assume for a minute that him not going after McCabe, after Strzok, after Comey, and after Clapper, because those are the main culprits.
Yep.
I don't, but here's my take on it. Yes, they were POSs. Get it.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the bigger fish we have to fry, because none of them are in power anymore. And they have no more influence really except on CNN. But I think if he goes after the ones that instigated the original stuff that are still in power, like the Clintons, like Barack, and like the current Democrat Party, I don't really, and hear me out, I do want him to make sure he gets all of them. But I think eventually, if he gets those guys, they can always open criminal cases as opposed to an investigation against the people that they are tied to. So I think in either case, he's still going to get to the small guys. And I think it would have been a waste of time to go after the peons when he could have been investigating the head honchos. And I think he got the head honchos over the barrel. I think he's got most of with what he found out. The big dogs are over the barrel right now. It is up to the Republican Party to pull the chair from under them so they can fall in Nevada acid. That's I think to me, that would be the bigger problem, is trying to have that come through. Because as much as Infowars has dropped, I can't even bank on the Republicans to do anything about this.
And
they're too weak.
Yeah, and exactly. They're weak as heck. And like I said before, man, and you guys may or may not agree, this is all political theater, right? To me, in my eyes. They all have something on each other. Every single one of them have dirt on someone. So let's say they do go after the Clintons. Let's say they do go after Barack and the Obamas, whatever his real name is, Barry Soetoro.
Barry.
Then you don't think they have something on these guys? So like I said, it's just a game. It's a game to keep us occupied, man. This is what it is. And though we enjoy watching it, of course, we enjoy watching it. I don't think anything's going to come of this. This is just another shiny object. You got the same time, you got 3 different things going, or 4, all in 1 week. You got the submarine, you got the Hunter Biden thing, you got the Trump indictment, and then you got
Don't forget about the impeachment.
And the impeachment, and all this is going on at the same time. So it's to keep people confused to what's going on. So we'll be talking about this today, or the news this would be big news today. Tomorrow it'll be something else. Then it'll be then it keep your focus, and it keeps shifting our focus. So over here, whatever they're doing, they're over there doing whatever the heck they want to do. People don't know that, you know, we just lost $6.2 billion.
Yeah.
$6.2 billion.
Overpaid basically for weapons and sent it to Ukraine.
And the reason they don't know is
because they can't pass an audit.
Shiny objects. Submarine. Let's throw the submarine at them. Let's throw a little Hunter Biden at them. Let's throw a little bit of this. Why we lost all American people's money. I'm just saying, I don't think nothing's going to happen. Marlon?
Okay. Dude. So, while I get it might be a partial shiny object, I cannot fully say that it's not something that we should have looking into, especially the Hunter thing, because it all ties into the one big thing.
I agree.
Call it a deep state, call it whatever. It might be an arm or a tentacle of the main thing, and it might be shiny. But here's the problem with the focusing on what we need to focus on, which is American people. Everything they do affects us. And if this text exchange that Hunter had is legit, we are beyond screwed at this point.
Yeah.
Whether or not Trump wins, if this text message right here between Hunter, Zhang, and Biden is legit, we are 100% screwed. So this is what it is. I'm sitting here with my father, and we would like to understand why the commitment made has not been fulfilled. Now, ain't no statement about the commitment. But if you watch what China is on the move doing by way of land grab, military expertise, intellectual property, and land and farmland purchase, this means a whole lot more, because it tells me that the classified documents that he had in his office and his garage as a senator had to do with Chinese investments in American businesses, Chinese influence in American politics. And there is a massive line from since the beginning of his tenure, which is a long time ago, very long time ago. If you remember the first interview he did before he won the Senate seat, I wouldn't assume that I wasn't corruptible. Okay? If that's the case, you're talking about 40 plus years of selling American intellectual property to China with the help of government agents.
Yep.
CIA, I don't care, FBI, they were just arms of what was taking place in the Senate, arms of what was taking place in the House, and arms of what was taking place in the presidency. And
Well,
if
you know
that
what
is
they're
the case, we are completely, and I mean completely, screwed, because we have no real idea, and we won't have any idea, because they're not going to go after Biden.
Yep.
What those documents were saying.
Well, here's the thing. You know what their involvement with that company was, right?
Say
It was
again?
you know what they were involved in, right?
Burisma?
No, not just Burisma, but what the reason they were teamed up with the Chinese, they were trying to help spearhead in the United States was liquid natural gas. It was a gas company, another gas company that was trying to get rights and access to liquefied natural gas in the United States. That was the reason they were helping them open the doors, right? To get Chinese corporations in America on U.S. land to pull resources and ship to China. That's what they were doing. They were selling out America for profit, using their name in order to help the Chinese get through the back door to acquire resources from the Americans.
You know something, Corey? You just said that, and the instant you said it, something clicked. America is the only one going green, in case people hadn't noticed. With that Paris Accord, none of the other big names are doing anything to actually curb what they call carbon emissions. America is the only one, and in so doing, they release the natural resource. Listen carefully. The natural resources here are no longer being used by the citizens here. We have to outsource for battery and lithium and stuff like that overseas to bring over here for electrical vehicles, okay? Electric vehicles. Meanwhile, China is being given American land. Remember, China has not given up fossil fuels. In fact, they are tripling and quadrupling their use of fossil fuels.
And U.S. farmland.
And U.S. Now, so if they come here and we're not using the resources, and America is selling them the land that has the resources, and we no longer have natural gas, China can then become the world power, and no one is going to be able to stop them. Because trust and believe me, you're not going to be able to convert what's going on now with just America, the world, to green. It's not going to happen, because that's not the goal of the world.
Yep.
That's not the goal.
Yeah. Speaking of resources, man, speaking of oil and everything, rumor is that that's what the real Ukraine war was about. It's that American
resources.
Well, American companies have bought up land out there to get their oil and get some of their resources. So I mean, they're trying to, and it's all in our face. They're really trying to destroy America. And what did Ronald Reagan say? America's going to be destroyed from the inside, not the outside. It's going to be us, the people that are in charge here, that do it for money.
We have
everything is a rich man's trick.
Party.
Yeah.
Yep. We have a political party that is more, actually, I would say an establishment that is more willing and able to sell out their entire resources of America to foreign entities over and over again. Did you know most of the toll roads in the United States aren't actually owned by American companies?
Yep.
They're owned by foreign companies.
Yep.
Like Texas, for instance, has a company that is owned by a Spanish company in India and a bunch of other places. And those tolls that you pay aren't going to fix the roads. They're going to other entities and foreign nationals in their pockets, right?
Hence
So they're
why
not
the
going to
roads
fix
are
your
still
roads.
bad. Hence why the roads are
exactly.
still bad.
They have
Well,
no incentive to fix the roads. They only want the money from your tolls.
Well, here's the thing with our toll roads, though. Our toll roads are better than the main highway that goes through here, Austin. You know, you have I-35. They've been working on that since I've lived here, 6 years. But then
But they
you
have
go
no
on,
incentive to.
you go on 30 or 130, the toll road.
Yeah.
That thing is immaculate. Let something go wrong, you'll see the crew out there that day out there.
It's a magnet. It's a magnet for money.
Yep.
If I can keep the rest of the roads crappy, you have to use that one.
Mm-hmm.
But the only people that are affected by those tolls, though, are poor individuals, right? Rich people don't care about tolls. It's just like it's pennies. They don't care, right? But a person that has to go to work every day and making barely enough to get a Big Mac, they don't need to be paying those tolls, period. But anyway, that's another thing. I'm just saying is that America is being sucked out of all of its resources by foreign nationals, and our leaders in Congress and the United States Senate are selling everything to foreign nationals, and we're getting nothing in return. Like they make astronomical amounts of money between insider trading and what they get in salary, as well as their stock options and their perks after they get out of office, right? And they could care less about what happens to you. Not a single one of them, Republican or Democrat, care what happens. Democrats are going to go to their lobbies, and so is the Republicans after they get out. And it's going to be probably the Defense Department somewhere as a contractor for some freaking Lockheed Martin group or some shit. So it's
the finishing of this text here, okay?
Yeah.
I hope people understand the implications of this, because it's not just now. If you know anything about Hunter, he has no problem doing his stuff in public. He records himself all the time. Why? Because of who his daddy was. So listen carefully. Tell the director that I would like to resolve this now before it gets out of hand, and that means tonight. And Z, if I get a call or a text from anyone involved in this other than you, Zhang, or the chairman, I will make certain that between the man sitting next to me and every person he knows, there's a black guy he knew, and my ability to forever hold a grudge, that you will regret not allowing my direction. I'm sitting here waiting on the call to my father. Now, Biden for years has said that he had no dealings with Hunter and his business. Lies. If this is true, the reason I can believe this is true is because they have become so brazen they don't need to hide this anymore.
That's right.
Okay, let's listen. Do you remember when he was running, Biden, and he said that he would shut down Nord Stream? What happened when he got in?
He bombed it.
No, Nord Stream, right?
Yeah.
Nord Stream.
Yeah.
It is so brazen that you can't. And okay, look, another one. You remember the train station bombing in Ukraine?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, what was that before the war, right?
Mm-hmm.
That was the precursor to the war.
Yes, I remember.
You realize that bombing didn't happen, right?
Yeah, they said it was all staged.
Yeah. Well, I had the pictures of the place before the bombing, after the bombing, during the bombing. There's nothing wrong with the place. They had a couple of bears strewn all over the place, a couple of burnt spots, one car. Now, they said a big bomb went off right next to the burnt car.
I remember
place where you
that.
stand next to a bus station, completely fine. There was a stroller sitting there, unburnt. Everything inside the stroller burnt. Around the stroller burnt, but the stroller's clean. One rail just kind of bent up and stood there.
I remember.
The bomb never happened. It was what we call a false flag. In order for America to have merits to go into Ukraine and say, oh, look, Russia.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
That's exactly what it was during this hearing, is they were always leading it back to Russia.
Same thing. The same thing. So with the advent of this Durham Report, and then the information that's being, like, mind you, all of us knew exactly what was in the Durham Report long before it. So for us, the Durham Report is old news. It literally is like 5 years old.
Right.
It's
Everybody's
it's
just
all
catching
it's
up.
all old stuff. It's not stuff that we had like, oh really? Oh my God. It was like, oh, I'm glad they have at least paperwork now to show what we knew. We've been saying this for a long time. So when you see this kind of stuff taking place, don't forget that their goal is not information gathering. I'm talking about the people in power. Their goal is information cycling. Whatever information they want, they're going to cycle and keep cycling it until you believe it. And then they'll find another thing and they'll cycle that till you believe it. And it all comes before something big that they have to make you believe. The small thing that they were showing you
Yep.
made true. So if I believe Hunter's getting off, he's not going to serve any jail time. He'll pay the fine.
No.
And then you'll see that the so-called impeachment will not happen.
Yep.
He will not be impeached because he will have. I'm going to say about 80 Republicans will defect.
Yep.
Probably.
And I would say
Establishment,
maybe
6
another 5
establishment.
or 7 in the Senate will defect.
Yeah.
That's going to be my call. I think that's going to happen. And I think McConnell and Lindsey is going to be one of the 2 of the 7 in the Senate that will defect. Now,
Grant,
would that being the case, and with this report here, with the next one you're going to show here, bro, there is going to come a point where you will start seeing the Republican Party become the new Democrat Party, and the Democrat Party remain the same, and it will become a Unitarian Party, and there won't be anything left but a single party voting system.
Yeah.
And that's always been their goal. But if you think back and you were talking about how they're just doing it right in front of our face nowadays, they're just telling us, like, just straight up. They're telling us exactly what they're going to do right in front of our face. You remember when Barack Obama said that American people are too small-minded to pretty much comprehend what's going on?
Well, that was, I want to make sure that people know that was an edited clip.
Okay, it was.
Okay,
I'm making sure.
Yeah, but he also said that they'll stick to their Bibles and cling to their Bibles and guns as well. So
that was and I watched the full thing, and it was an edited clip.
Okay,
I'm not saying he doesn't think that. I'm not.
Yeah,
but
I'm sure he does.
Well, they all think we're stupid, and this is why they're doing stuff in our face.
Yeah.
This is why you have Americans out there falling for the bamboozles. They're doing it right in front of your face. They're telling you what they're going to do. They're lying to you just straight up, and you still just like, oh, well, shiny object over here. Oh, you guys got to pay attention to these dudes because they're counting on the American people.
Counting distractions.
Focusing on distractions.
Right.
All right, here it is. All right, go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say, before we move on to the next clip, I wanted to talk about Hunter Biden for a second. The things that were dropped today about more of this is that the IRS itself actually wanted to charge him with felonies, right? With felony evasion. And same thing with the guns. They wanted to, but the Justice Department actively blocked their ability to recommend felony charges for him to be charged with. The IRS, mind you, was trying to do this, and they were slow rolling all of this. Especially, they wanted to charge him before Biden actually got in, but they slow rolled it so that it would roll over into Biden's presidency. They actively stopped that. Here's even a funnier bit. Did you know Hunter Biden tried to write off on his taxes his use of a sex club and paying a hooker as a secretary?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
The audacity of this dude.
He's the smartest king. He's the smartest guy you know.
Like, I wish I could get away with that, right? I wish I could just go to strip clubs all day long and like write them off as like a business expense, right? As it was a dinner. We went to dinner and we just blew hundreds of ones just like at the strippers. That's
chicken
great.
wings.
Are you ready?
They have
Go
some
for it,
bomb
yeah.
chicken wings.
The lady yields back. Gentleman from Texas is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Durham. That's not part of the report. It is a lot of what I've heard from my colleagues on the other side of the aisle. One of my colleagues from California said, I don't know what we're doing here. And what we're doing here is going through this very damning report. The FBI has failed many times over the years that you investigated them. I'd like to ask, did the FBI open Crossfire Hurricane without speaking to the people who provided the information?
Yes.
Did the FBI open Crossfire Hurricane on a Sunday, only 3 days after reviewing the information?
Yes.
Did the FBI open Crossfire Hurricane without any significant review of its own intelligence database?
Yes.
Did the FBI open Crossfire Hurricane without interviewing the essential witnesses?
Yes.
Did the FBI open Crossfire Hurricane without using any of the standard analytical tools typically employed in evaluating intelligence?
Yes.
Did the FBI consider the possibility that it was the target?
It didn't appear so to me from the evidence.
And so I'm curious if you could tell me, because I'm not a prosecutor, some of my colleagues here are, but the average American is not. Can you tell us why and under what motivation would a prosecutorial agency act in such a way where it willfully ignores multiple instances of exculpatory evidence throughout the course of its investigation? Because I just don't understand that.
That, in my experience, that is not the norm. That's not how the FBI performs. In this particular case, as is reflected in the report, there appear to be persons in the FBI who were central to opening the investigation that had rather strong views concerning then candidate Trump.
And we've heard in your report that you reference confirmation bias. And a lot of times, or sometimes, we see that the investigators, perhaps the FBI investigators, they have a confirmation bias because they want a guilty outcome. They want to find the suspect guilty. But we did not see that to be the case for Hillary Clinton. So it makes me think that based on the investigation into the conduct and the continuous disregard for duty, there was obviously a special motivation to find this suspect, Donald Trump, and his campaign guilty above anyone else. Would you agree?
I can speak to what the facts show as documented in the report. Again, people draw their reasonable inferences, conclusions from those facts with an honest reading of the report.
If either you or someone on your team willfully ignored exculpatory evidence, refused to interview key witnesses, favored one suspect over another, or did any or all of the things that the FBI did during Crossfire Hurricane, would you face repercussions?
There ought to be repercussions. If that ever happened in connection with an agent that I was working with and I knew about it, the first thing would be to report it to the court. And the probably second thing would be to report it to their superiors. The third thing would be sure that that agent never worked with me again.
I appreciate that. I also appreciate your remarks earlier in your open testimony where you said, my colleagues and I carried out our work in good faith, with integrity, in the spirit of following the facts wherever they lead without fear or favor. I believe you did that. I'm disappointed in some of my colleagues that have said disparaging remarks about you. I've seen very few that actually talk about your report. They want to talk about everything else, which tells me you're onto something. I'd also yield the balance of my time to the chairman.
I appreciate the gentleman for yielding. So Dan Chinko is the primary subsource. A few years before he does this work, he was investigated by the FBI for espionage. Is that right, Mr. Durham?
Right.
And that case was halted because the FBI thought he left the country, right?
Correct.
Had he left the country?
No.
Where was he living?
You remain living in the place that he was living when they opened the investigation.
Right here in D.C., right?
Yeah.
He hadn't left anywhere. He's right here in D.C., and we're going to stop this. And then they go hire him, use the tax money of the people I get the privilege of representing to pay this guy who they obviously knew was a Russian spy. They hire him, who's the source of all the false information. Is that true?
They paid him, they hired him, and they paid him.
Couple $100,000, if I recall, right?
It's over $200,000.
Yeah, and then this guy is hanging out with Dolan, Charles Dolan, who's a buddy of the Clintons, who's also a source for the false dossier that was used to spy on an American citizen. He's hanging out with Dolan. In fact, don't they meet on a park bench somewhere in Arlington, Virginia on New Year's Day?
New Year's Day, middle of the
I mean,
day.
this is straight out of the movies, right? And the FBI says, but we're not going to talk to Charles Dolan. I mean, this is two of the dumbest things I've ever heard of. They won't talk. They pay a guy who's a Russian spy, who's the source of the dossier. The other source of the dossier is Charles Dolan, who meets with that guy on a park bench in Arlington, and they don't want to interview him. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. But that's what Comey's FBI did. And they're still doing this kind of baloney because Mr. D'Antuono told us so, running operations, running investigations out of headquarters instead of assigning a U.S. attorney, a job you did for a long time and did very well. That is a huge problem. And your report, that's why your report's valuable. Gentlemen, I yield back to the gentleman who was out of time, and we now...
Okay, here's the thing I take from this. Now, this is my conspiracy mind working here, okay?
Just a
Of
little.
all the evidence that was found in the with Durham's investigation. Now, mind you, Matt, but there's still something fishy about Matt.
Mm-hmm.
There's something extremely fishy. And for him to be harping on the fact that he already knew that these particular people were, mind you, during the Mueller investigation, they had the option. Listen carefully. Gates himself, the House, had the option to open an investigation into those people. They had multiple options to do this. They did not need Durham. They could have opened their own separate investigation into those people. Comey, Strzok, Page, Lisa, the Lisa Page lady, Comey, and Clapper. They could have investigated them to the core and have that information on record, even if they never brought a charge. They would have everything that could be, and it could have been easily added to the Durham report, and you would have a flush, a royal flush. So I get that Matt's excited, but you're the same fool that didn't want to open one during that time. You were too preoccupied with people calling people names and doing this and doing the other. You were just as wrapped up in the stupid impeachment crap as everyone else. You never did your job either. None of you did. Not you, what's his name? Jordan. None of you did your job.
Yeah.
You all sat by with a bunch of platitudes. Collins, none of you did anything.
And people have to remember, people like Jordan. What did Jordan recently vote for?
The bill.
You guys have to understand, yeah, we watch him, and most people on the right watch him like, man, I really like that Jordan guy. He's really sticking it to Durham. You got to look at his track record, though. Remember what he voted for, and this is why I keep reverting back to this is all theater. This is to force us to pick sides. This is to force us to say you're right, you're wrong, left, right. Nothing will happen. I'm telling you. Something big is going to happen. Something's coming up. Something big's going to happen. And just understand, though I want something to happen so bad with this report and the Clintons, and I want them all to go down, remember what's coming up here soon. All this talk with Hunter and Durham and, Trump and, the submarine, all this stuff going on, Hunter Biden, July 1st. It's going to be a whole new dynamic, and that's what they're going to be focusing on. So keep your eyes open. I'm just saying.
Here's something I contemplate and think about, because we were talking about the Tree of Liberty a couple of weeks ago, right? Or was it last week, right? It was last week we were talking about that?
Somewhere in there.
Yeah. It's disgusting and outrageous, the fact that we know our government is corrupt, our politicians are corrupt, and we can see the active corruption happening in front of our faces. They spit in our eye and say it's raining. And then at what point is it the right of the people to do something about it when the justice system won't take care of it when they need to? That's my basic question, as a philosophical question, not advocating for doing it, mind you, YouTube, just saying as a philosophical question, at what point do the United States citizen, we the people, have to take care of to remove these people based on their corruption because of the justice system that won't actually go after them? We can see it. We can literally see them breaking the law and say, well, because we're special. We're nobility. We make the rules, so therefore we get to do whatever we want. And that's the thing that is disgusting to me and absolutely insane, is the fact that these people act like neo-nobility. This is my coined term, neo-nobility. That's what they act like. They believe because they make the laws and the rules, and they have their little sectors and counties, right, and dukedoms, whatever you want to call it, right? Senators are dukes, and the Congress people are counts, right? And they look after their counties.
You remember in the military, though, right? You remember it was the same thing. Like these senior leaders and all this leadership used to come up with all this, and they used to just do all this stuff, and they would break the rules all the time. But the minute you did it, it was over for you. So it's the same concept, man.
This I get it.
Go ahead.
Final thought, like I said, is the fact that at what point do we have to do something about them? Is my philosophical question. I think it's something we should bring up in a show once on the Uncensored one.
Saturday, yeah,
but
we will.
But it's like I said, it's like we can see it. It's disgusting, but we don't know what we're supposed to do about it anymore.
The thing I think will end up with this is it'll give people that are seeing the truth the high five that you are right, and it will give you more incentive to get yourself out of the grid system. Because look, trust and believe me, as much as we want the corrupt people to fall and collapse, it's big. It is big. They've set this agenda long before, and they're light years ahead of you now. They're light years ahead of you. Everything from the land tax. And I heard a girl put it so succinctly one time. They tax their employer for your money, and then they give you take your money and tax your money. Then they tax your money after you give it to somebody else for food. Then they tax your money after that person gets it from that person, and the cycle continues. Mind you, they're still in debt after all that, taking $1 and minusing about 70% of its value from it.
Yep.
So that part we are no longer able to retrieve. That's gone. However, what we do have left is our dignity. And we have to keep that part intact. Otherwise, we are definitely going to be screwed. And not just us, because we're on the tail end right now of our generation.
Yep.
X is almost gone. It's going to be millennials, and we're not going to be. We'll eventually become Carthage.
Yep.
That's what
the only thing they don't tax is your breath.
That's
and
it.
even
And
then,
it's
they would do an air tax if they could.
Oh yeah,
right.
That's your carbon footprint. Remember, they're trying that already.
Right. They tax you when you drink. They tax you when you poop. They tax you when you eat. They tax you when you drive. They tax you when you
trying to get
buy
your breath.
anything.
They're trying to get your breath. Next thing you know, they're going to tax the tears that come out your eyes for collecting them. You know what I mean? But you know, just people understand. You know, a lot of us have our different opinions, but we all kind of think the same a little bit on here. You know, don't get distracted by all the other stuff they're throwing at us. It's okay to address it. I address things all the time. All of us do. But still focus on, you know, the task at hand. And that's figuring out Biden and his corrupt family. That's the task. That's what we need to focus on. Because all they do, they're going to throw, I'm telling you, wait till next week. Give them about a week. It's like every week something new comes out. Next week, something will happen. Yeah. Something big. Huge. It'll be huge.
It'll be huge.
And all the American people, they're just going to forget about it. They're going to forget about everything.
Huge.
Mark my words. Something's going to happen. I'm just saying. I've been right a couple of times now. Just watch.
I think Monday I want to tackle that OMG report on BlackRock.
Oh yeah, that was insane.
That was good.
So I think we'll do BlackRock Monday, and I want to expose exactly how many big companies, not just every company, but we're talking about globally big companies BlackRock has mass amounts of money invested in, and kind of break that down. So we'll discuss BlackRock on Monday. Lee's internet took an Obama on him. So
that happens.
He apologized backstage.
The
FBI. We will have the hooch up at 6 o'clock on Sunday, Central Standard Time. We're going to be covering Mark Zuckerberg and Elon Musk going at it in a cage match, as well as the submarine. So you can catch us there. I put the link tree in the chat. You can find it there.
It's going to be great. Don't miss it. Hey, don't miss it.
Don't miss it. Until then, be sure to make sure you like, share, subscribe, comment. Make sure you pass this around, because this is stuff that you won't see the mainstream media covering at all, because it's the end of their era if they do. We can't afford to make them get any more ground. So do what you can. Share this out. Get our names famous. We have a different take than everybody else. You've seen that already.
Yeah.
And we don't pull punches left, right, or center. We're gonna smack you to the floor if you act a fool. So get ready for next week. We'll be talking about BlackRock Monday, and next Saturday is our open session on Rumble. All right, so look for that. Until then, Too Strong is up next at 5 o'clock my time, 8 o'clock Eastern, and then following that will be the mix at 9:30 Eastern. This is the Savage Patriots. We out.